Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 115th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and you are going to love this one, because this is where I tell off on myself about what I forgot. Okay, let me get started. Our last day in London turned out to be a fun adventure. But about halfway through our planned day, I realized I had made a rookie mistake. I am a seasoned travel planner. This is what I do for a living, and I love it. But I want you to know that I made a huge mistake, and it was very humbling for me. And so I'm sharing this experience with you for several reasons. For one, it is okay to forget something, or to realize it's okay when carefully laid plans go awry, as they often do. People often will ask me, they're like, well, all your trips just go perfectly. No, they don't. You can ask my husband, and he'll give you a more accurate description. Often, there are things that do not go perfectly. Most of the time, I'd like to say those things are not my fault. There are things that you cannot plan for, whether it's, weather or, a volcano erupting in Iceland, or maybe it's a mechanical issue on a plane. Like, there's a lot of things that have happened to us that are completely outside of my control. And I have to learn how to adjust and deal with what my expectations were and what actually happened. And I've learned that the way you handle the situation is even more important than the situation itself. So that's number one, why I want to share this story with you. Number two, you always want to have a backup plan or ideas to make it easier for you if you have to pivot. The story I'm going to share with you in a few moments, it would have been completely different if I didn't already have a backup plan already in my mind that I was able to quickly pivot to. Number three, to be able to laugh at yourself if you make an error is a healthy thing. I did allow myself a bit of a pity party, but it was a 2-minute pity party. And I think I rebounded pretty quickly. You can ask Logan, and I think he would say I rebounded pretty quickly. I think I did. But also the other part of that, if you're the one that made the mistake or the error when it comes to your trips, to laugh at yourself, right? If you were not the one that made the mistake, maybe it was your spouse, maybe it was your friend, maybe, it was your child that you have let make some decisions and things went awry. Give some grace. Give grace to your travel partner if they were the ones that planned it. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility. Sometimes there's a lot of moving parts. So give them a little grace. They're already beating themselves up. And I will say, Logan did an amazing job. He just kind of stepped back, let me decide what I wanted to do to rebound for my disappointment, and was willing to go with it. And our day was saved. It really was. And number four, I'm going to share with you after my story. All right, so here we go. Tuesday was the last full day of our trip in England. We left on a Wednesday, arrived Thursday morning. We were going to be leaving the following Wednesday morning. So I had a full itinerary. I know you can believe that. You know me by now. You know that I had something planned every day. I had a black cab tour for that Thursday when we arrived. Friday, we had a play that we were going to in the West End. We went and saw Fawlty Towers, which is a hilarious British comedy featuring John Cleese is the one who wrote that. And then Saturday, we were going to the Warner Brothers Studios. Sunday, we had a matinee that we were going to go see Back to the Future, which my boys absolutely loved. It was a musical, lots of special effects, great show with kids. And then Monday, we had high tea. So I had something scheduled every day except for Tuesday. Why? I left Tuesday open because we were going out to the countryside. And I wanted to go somewhere that I had been looking forward to returning to 18 years. For 18 years, I regretted not going to Windsor Castle. It was Queen Elizabeth II's favorite weekend getaway. That is where she is buried. I wanted to go to the castle. I knew that it was going to be an amazing experience, and I didn't go when I was in England the first time. So that's something I've been really looking forward to. So when I was looking at my itinerary, the way I had planned everything out, the only day it made sense to go was Tuesday. So that's when we put it on our schedule. So that morning, we already had train tickets purchased for Windsor and back. And that morning, we had just enough time to go to Westminster Abbey. And even though Logan is my timekeeper, and he always overestimates how much time something's going to take, I always underestimate how much time something's going to take. And we meet somewhere in the middle usually. So he always thinks we're going to be late or miss something. And I always think we have plenty of time. So that we're a fun combination. If you ever travel with us, you'll experience that. I want to pack in as much as I possibly can. Logan would rather be there an hour early so he doesn't miss it. And so we meet somewhere in the middle and maybe have 10 minutes to spare instead of an hour. So we're at Westminster Abbey. Logan is looking at his watch constantly to make sure we don't miss our train because we are going to Windsor and we're not going to arrive until 1 o'clock because it was on our London pass. We had done a lot of things on our London pass that week, and I knew that we could not go to Windsor Castle until 1 o'clock with our London pass. That's when we could check in. So we weren't going to rush. We had our train leaving at 12:04, and when they say they're leaving at 12:04, you were chugging out of that station at 12:04. Actually, it was 12:03. You were chugging along. London was super excited about the train station. That's one of the big things he wanted to do since he didn't get to do the Eurostar. You heard that that's the one thing he felt like he missed out on, but he did get to do a train. So we were, taking our train. We were going to go. I felt quite smug. I really did, because we had plenty of time at Westminster Abbey. And we made it with 10 minutes to spare. The whole time Logan's saying we weren't going to make it. So I was feeling quite smug about myself. And I have learned, if anything, the moment I start to feel smug about myself is the moment something bad happens. It really is. Like they say, like you're going to eat humble pie, and I did. So it was an hour train ride, beautiful train ride. We have comfortable seats, plenty of room. Absolutely loved it. Waited 18 years. We pull up, I see the castle in the distance that we're going to walk to. I'd already picked out restaurants that we're going to eat at. Pasta places that the pasta comes out in heart shapes, restaurants right on the Thames. It was going to be an amazing day. We were going to go to the castle, have lunch, go back to the castle and have dinner. Fantastic day. And the castle dominates the village. The village was built up to serve the castle. So cute little shops, like I said, little restaurants, coffee places, gelato places. Super excited. We are taking pictures. I'm taking pictures of the boys walking up to the castle. Christian is taking pictures for me. It's so much fun. I'm posing with the castle behind me. And I notice there's not a lot of crowds. It's not that bad. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be great. Perfect day. Weather's amazing. We get to the gate and Logan says, Gate B is closed. I was like, okay, Logan. So Gate B is closed. So we go to Gate C. We get to Gate C. Gate C is also closed. I was like, well, this isn't good. Why are both gates closed? And then I go look at the hours and it says open daily. And then right underneath open daily, it says except for on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And I'm staring in disbelief because I don't know how I made this mistake. And I'm like, I'm going over everything. I'm like, I don't remember it saying on the London Pass that it was going to be closed. I know most places have days they're closed during the week. But in my mind, I was like, I would have checked if it were a Sunday maybe or a Monday. But I'm thinking Tuesday because that day before had been a holiday. So I'm looking and I'm like, I don't know how this happened. How did I miss this? And I'm thinking because I made my own itinerary and I had something planned every other day. This was the only day I had time left. So then I had this moment where I had a 2-minute pity party. I was so disappointed. I was like, what are we going to do now? And Logan's like, let's just take a hop on, hop off bus and explore Windsor. And I'm like, no, that is not going to work. I'm going to see this castle from every angle and I'm going to be mad at myself. I've ruined our last day in London. And what did I choose to do? That's all the time we have. for this week's episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, but you're going to want to tune in to the podcast episode to find out what I did to remedy this situation. That's it for this edition of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. Tune in every Monday at 11 a.m. to turn your travel dreams into travel plans. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for an interview or for access to this interview, go to our website, shark1023.com, and click on the podcast tab. This interview can also be found on Apple, Google, and Amazon Podcast. Keep it tuned to the Shark 1023 and start planning your next trip.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcast, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.